Good morning, everyone. It's a very brisk morning here in northern Maine. Woke up to temperatures of -2 this morning. And even though our garden is under snow, doesn't mean we can't start planting. Told a lot of people I was going to start planting today, and they said, how are you going to get through all the snow? Never thought that we'd be starting seeds indoors today. So we are 12 weeks from our last frost date, and even though it's very snow covered and cold out this morning, we still get to have the fun of planting seed and growing food for not just our family, but for our neighbors and friends and our community. Okay, here we are. We're in the grow room. And we're going to start with planting our tomatoes first. I've got all my tomato seeds over here. I have my picks all labeled, ready to go. And we're going to start with the Rapunzel cherry tomatoes. These are very prolific tomatoes that vine really well and produce a lot of tomatoes. As I said in the last video, typically people plant their tomatoes 4 to 6 weeks before their last frost date, which is fine if you live in an area, let's say southern United States or warm climates, where you get really long growing seasons for your tomatoes. But we don't. Last year I didn't have too many tomatoes end up red on the vine, so I want to give myself some extra time this year, and I want to start them 12 weeks ahead instead of 6, so that they got plenty of time to grow. And like I said, we have the room for it. You saw it, if you watched our last video, you saw in our video that we have lots of room at the bottom of our grow lights for our tomato plants to get about 3 feet tall. So we're going to grow them down there once they get big enough. We'll put them on the bottom and let them get nice and tall. The only ones that we're not going to be planting this week for tomatoes is we have a senior citizen couple in their 70s that we're going to be planting a bed for them. So we're not going to plant theirs yet because we won't get to them till probably close to the 1st of June to go ahead and plant theirs then. So we're going to wait a couple weeks on theirs. So I've got my seed starting mix all laid out in this pan here. These roasting pans are great for mixing seed start mix in, planting, and this is a sterile mix. We know it's sterile. So we're not going to use boiling water, but if you do use potting soil and you want to make sure that you don't have any fungus gnats or larvae in here or spider mites or anything, when you go ahead and pour your water on, use boiling water. Have a couple drain holes in the bottom of your pan, set your pan over your sink, pour boiling water in just enough to wet this down. Let any excess drain out, wait about 10 minutes and it'll kill off anything that's in there. We're using water from our fridge. We have a nozzle on the door and we have a filter on it, so we know all the chlorine's removed. You can use just a jug of water, distilled water or spring water from the store. If you're going to use pre-jugged water, I'd say go with distilled. The chlorine can kill your seeds and you don't want that. So we're going to, I know our filter takes out the chlorine, but if you don't have a filter, then get a jug of distilled water. It's about 99 cents. So we're going to put just enough in here to wet this. And we didn't fill the pan entirely full because if we over wet it, we can always add some more potting mix in here to offset it being over wet. So this is mainly 50% peat moss. And it will soak up the water. It may take a few minutes to do it. Just move it around, try to get everything mixed in, kind of like making a cake. See how that's just starting to soak everything up? And you don't want it too wet. You don't want to be able to pick it up and squeeze water out of it. But you do want it to come together. Your seeds are going to need some dampness for germination. These little pots are great to start seeds in because they come with the holes pre-drilled in them. We can probably get 40 pots out of this whole bag of mix. We're only doing about, I'd say 15 for our tomatoes. So, we don't need too many of them, but they come in packs of 100, so we have plenty in case we decide to use them for something else. If you have like a red solo cup or a blue one or clear plastic cups, you can drill holes in the bottom of those and plant into those. And it will, those will work well too. Now for our tomatoes, we don't want to plant too deep or too much soil in here to start with. That's a little too wet. So put just a handful of some more potting mix in there. Some seed starting mix. Let's go too. Just want it damp, want it loose. Where was I? Oh yeah. We're not going to fill the pots entirely full because once the tomatoes get their true leaves on them, what you will see pop up first is the leaves that get it just enough room to get going. Just enough, process enough sun, and then another set of leaves will come out. The second set of leaves will be its true leaves. And once those sprout, we're going to start filling up the pot to the top. Once the true leaves are above the top. Because tomatoes have little pricklies along their stems, which will go ahead and put down roots wherever soil touches the stem. And we want to have a really good root structure on these. So we're going to want to fill the pot with soil once we can get the true leaves up past the top. So I like to start with a uniform mixture in my pots. Same amount across the board. So that's why I have a little white measuring cup there. That's just a half cup. These hold about a cup, cup and a quarter to the top. Maybe a cup and a half. So get just the half cup to get started with. Make sure it's mixed in really well. There we go. Okay. Now, take our pot, a half cup measuring scoop, put some in, take another pot, pack it down. You don't want to make it hard as a brick. Squeeze any excess water out. There we go. I'll just set that there, put that down. Take out our Rapunzel cherry tomato seeds. Some of these seeds I don't have too many of, so I'm not going to plant like too many. Some people will put 3 or 4 seeds in a pot and just leave the strongest one. I'll do 2, and I'll put them just about center. So 1, 2. I'll just take my finger and just push them down in just a little bit. Okay. And then I'll take a couple spoonfuls of seed starting mix. Doesn't take much, maybe 3. And then we're going to take that same pot again and pack this down. And let's make sure we get everything in there packed down all the way. You don't want it too tight. You only want about a 1/4 inch of soil on top. That's why I only did 3 spoonfuls. And I know that doesn't look like there's much in there now, but this pot's almost half full. There's plenty of soil in there to get these seeds started, and then when they grow to about here, we'll top off the pot. So let me go ahead and get the rest of these done. I'm going to put my little stick in here so we know what variety it is. We have 15 varieties of tomatoes we're growing this year. So we got that ready, and I will get the rest of these going, and I'll be back. Okay, so here we are. We have all 12 of our tomato plants planted, and we have them underneath our grow lights now. This back one is adjusted just about the right height. I might bring it down a little bit lower a little later today. Remember I talked about the heat mat? I'm putting a heat mat under here, and I don't know if the metal of the pan will get too hot for these seeds, and I really don't want to burn them out. The mat gets about 70 degrees or so, and it's 57 in here now. So later on this afternoon I'll put the mat underneath here and plug it in. So I just took one of the trays from one of the other ones that we're going to be starting seeds in later in the season, one of the Pro Hexes. So I just put these in here for now, so I can put them on the mat later. I have the mat being flattened out. I took it out of the box and it was really stiff and kind of sat really wonky, so I put something heavy on it to flatten it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring these lights down quite a bit, try to get them even. Here's one. Here is the other. Get adjusted. Now, if your room temperature is 70-75 degrees, I really don't think you'd need a heat mat. They should germinate okay. This fall it was fairly warm in here, and I did grow 4 or 5 tomato plants, and they grew really well. But our nights, like I said, this morning was -2, and it gets really chilly in here, about 55 degrees. And so I'm going to put a heat mat underneath here, turn it on for 12 hours a day. I'll just have it on a power strip down below here, and when I turn the lights on, the heat mat will come on and keep them warm. It only has to be there for 5 days, and then I'll switch out to the other pan I had these in, and we'll grow in there. So our tomatoes are done, we're ready to go. I'm not going to water these today. When I do water them, will probably be in about 2 days. There should be enough moisture in there already to get the seeds to germinate. So we'll let these go, and let's go plant our peppers. And I'm going to show you a little how to plant in those little pouches. That it's almost the same as planting in these pots, but you need something to stand them up in. So we're going to go ahead and plant in those little pouches. We've got 16 peppers to do, so let's go ahead and get those started. Okay, so here we are. The first thing we're going to plant for our peppers is our hot peppers. Excuse me. All the information you need to know is on the back of these. Burpee's really good at providing information for you to grow them. They take 70 to 80 days for full harvest for them to actually be yellow. Most peppers will grow green when they first start. So once you get these in the ground, it'll take 70 to 80 days before you can harvest, which we'll probably put them in the ground June 1st, so it'll be around the end of July, beginning of August before we can harvest these. It says to plant them a 1/4 inch deep. That you, if you plant these in container, they're one plant per 12-inch container. If you're doing square foot gardening, you can fit one of these in a 1 square foot space. They do take 10 to 21 days to germinate at 75 to 85 degrees. And it says here what area, depending on what area you live in, is when you transplant. Now we're in the green, so it says May to June, which I said was about June 1st. If you live down here in the south, or anywhere up in Oregon or along the southern border of the U.S. here, you're going to be May and June, or sorry, March, March and May, and July and August. So you can actually plant these out either early spring or later in the summer, and you can get multiple harvests out of these. So let's go ahead, open our package, and start planting seeds. So I just going to take my sharp knife here. You can use a pair of scissors. Open these. There we go. Package is open. I'm just going to set it over here. Now these are the little pouches I was talking about, and I'll provide a link to these down in the description. I'll also provide a link to those small pots, and just open them up, take my spoon. Now peppers are not like tomatoes. You can't really go up the stem. You may be able to get like an inch or so of stem to sprout roots later, but they're not going to sprout like tomatoes would down the entire length of the stem. If you could, that'd be awesome. I would love that, because we get some really nice tall hardy pepper plants. And I just want to pack in the bottom of these pretty tight, round them out, and finish filling it. We'll stop about 1/2 inch or 1 inch from the top once we get these packed in here. In the black trays, like I have the tomatoes, you can put, I think I figured 50 of these, because these end up 2x2 pouch. Those trays are 10 by 20, so you can go 10 long and 5 across. You can get 50 of them in one of those trays. And these are really great because where they're mesh, I don't know if you can see the mesh in here, the roots will go right through the sides of these. They do take a little longer to break down than the peat pots, but peat isn't a really renewable resource. It takes 220 years to produce peat moss from one bog or swampy area, so it's not really renewable. So here we go. And so I'm not really a fan of planting in peat pots, and these do biodegrade. They will break down over the winter and fall. They don't degrade too quickly, because if they did, you couldn't really plant them. So there we go. Nice little round 2 inch by 2 inch pot. When we set it in the pan, we're going to kind of plop it down so it stands up on its own with a flat bottom. These, my wife found these from me. I thought they were really awesome, and I was really excited to plant in them. They're kind of hard to add extra soil in, so that's why I didn't use them for the tomatoes. So let's go ahead and get 2 seeds out here. I can get them to come out. These Mylar packages they're great for keeping your seeds in. You know, they'll last a while, but they don't like to come out. So again, we're planting 2 in each pouch. So what I do is when I like to plant 2 across, or 2 in there, I put them just about the width of my pinky apart, if you can see that. You can see how wide my pinky is. And that's so when it comes time to snip one off, because I don't pull them, you may disturb the roots of the other one you're trying to keep. I just can get my snips in here, snip it off, and call it good. And then I'll just put this whole pouch right in the hole. And a trick for planting these in the hole is you take the a bulb planter for digging out your hole. You push it in, push it down in the hole as far as you want to go, let go, pull up, pulls the soil out for you. You plop these in, put your soil in around it, and you're good to go. So let's put some soil on top of these. I apologize for my voice. It's winter here because the house is closed up and we have forced air heat. Makes me excuse me, makes me a little hoarse. And you know, that's great when you're Mr. Ed, but yeah, I know I'm showing my age here. There we go. And we have everything planted. I have my little stick here. I can get that to go down in. Try to get it to not catch on the mesh. There we go. And these are our hot peppers, our lemon ones. And we're just going to take our tray, our 10 by 20 tray, and set that right down there. And I will go do the other 15 pouches and I'll be back. Okay, so we're done planting our tomatoes, we're done planting our peppers. These are the peppers here, as you can see. We did 2 seeds per pouch, a finger width apart. When the seeds sprout and they get tall, we'll see which ones are strongest, and we'll take our snips and we'll just snip off the smaller ones, and those will have they'll take 2 to 3 weeks to germinate, so they'll get 8 or 9 weeks to grow. So they should get pretty nice and tall, about this tall, before they go in the ground. So what we're going to do now is, in these cells, I'm going to plant Kelsey onions, Brunswick onions, and Utah celery. Excuse me. With your onions, you have 3 different growing times of onions. You have short day onions, long day onions, and intermediate day onions. These here are the 2 that we're growing. We have Brunswick onions and Kelsey onions. The Kelsey onions are a white/yellowish onion. These are a long day onion. Now, what a long day, short day, or intermediate day is, those that live in the southern U.S. typically have, excuse me, have shorter growing times, shorter sunlight times. And those of us that live in the north, we get more sunlight per day. So if you live in the south, you could get 8 to 10 hours of sunlight per day, we typically range 12 to 16 hours a day. So a long growing onion would be, or a long day onion would be what we would grow. Those in the further southern states would grow short day onions, and those of you that live just right along the the central horizontal plane of the U.S. would grow intermediate onions. Now, technically, you can live in any zone and grow any onion, but it's a matter of what's going to give you the best result. Now, we're going to multi-sow these onions, and that means that we're going to put multiple seeds in each cell. Probably 4 or 5 seeds per cell. Now, these are not bunching onions. Bunching onions are onions that most people would plant several seeds like that, up to 10 seeds in one cell. And they will bunch up and overlap, and they say that you should only do that with bunching onions. However, you can do any onion and treat them as bunching onions, and they will do that. You'll just get some smaller onions, but after probably 30-45 days in the ground, you'll get what will look like spring onions, and you can pluck those out and use those as spring onions, and the rest will have room to grow and get bigger. And these take probably 90 to 100 days to grow. You plant these just a 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch below the surface of the soil. So first thing we got to do is fill up our cells. So we're just going to scoop some of this on here. Yeah, forget the scoop. This is my 3rd tray of soil I've put together. This stuff here. That's been an entire bag of potting mix, seed starting mix. So 3 of these pans will be 1 bag. So let's get this all put into the holes. And then, just like we did with tomatoes, just like we did with peppers, we're going to press the soil down, and we're going to leave about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch headspace at the tops of these cells for the seeds and the extra soil. So I'm just going to fill them all at once. It's easier that way. And we want to press it down in. Get to pack it down. If you're using the smaller 6-packs, this is a little easier. These come 72 to a kit, which is 2 of these trays, and I broke them apart because I needed room for my peppers. Once my peppers get going, I'll put them in a metal pan like this to hold them in once they've germinated, and we'll get them growing. And I really do apologize for my voice today. I am rather hoarse. I do worse in the winter with my allergies, and it's quite a pain in the rump to deal with. And I'm constantly coughing and hacking, and I didn't take my allergy meds this morning, which is my stupid fault, but live and learn, right? And I am making a mess with this, but that's okay. You're not supposed to stay clean and prim and proper with your gardening. If you want to stay clean and prim and proper, maybe gardening's not really for you. Yeah, missed a few cells here. Get those packed down. With the ones that come with the 6-packs, they're just 6 cells together. You can just take and do what's called thumb packing, where you just go down, hold on to it, and go down with 2 thumbs. That I've seen people do that. That tends to work really well. But I'm only planting, I'm planting 24 onions and 12 celery in here. So I'm going to want something I can easily carry, and a lot of times I do some stuff around the garden myself, and I want something that's going to be easy for me to carry around my garden and do when I'm working solo here. Although my wife doesn't mind planting seeds, but or planting cells in the garden, but she's not much for the planting stages like I do, and she doesn't mind getting her hands in the dirt. Just would prefer it be outside and nice out. Okay. So now we've got soil in our cells. Got one cell here that could use a little bit more. Every now and then you'll get sticks and twigs in here. I mean, peat moss is a organic, all-natural product. They do get it from like swampy areas and stuff. And you're going to get twigs in there. You see a lot of reviews of people saying, well, this was more like mulch, and I didn't like it, and too many twigs in there for me, and you know what, just pluck them out, keep going. No big deal, no harm, no foul. So, like I said, we're going to get about 90 days, and we're going to have a 135-day growing period, or 136-day growing period. But onions can take colder weather. They don't mind a little frost, and they are biennials, which means if you leave some in the ground over winter, in the spring they'll grow their green stalks again, but then they'll turn to seed. So if you want to harvest seeds on your own, leave a few in the ground, save yourself some money. I'm going to plant this entire seed of Keltsy and probably 60 of the Brunswick. And once I harvest them, these will probably go in the ground the week of either the 19th or the 26th. And 3 months, June, July, and August to grow, and then I'll plant some in September, and we'll get some smaller ones out in September. And some I'll just leave to go to seed. People will tell you that onions won't last from one year to the next, and that's probably what they've been told. But there are people that have grown onions that have been 7 years old before, and they grew fine. So if you don't want to test it out, donate your seeds to someone who needs some, or give them to a seed bank, something like that, and I'm pretty sure they'll be more than happy to take them. But I hate wasting seed. Don't just throw them out. But also don't go out and buy 10,000 seeds for onions. You can get probably 3 years out of them if you're doing an entire grove of onions. And good on you. I watched a woman the other day who was growing 2,500 onions. So, alright, let's start with our Keltsies. And what I'm going to do is I have 2 sticks here, and I'm going to put one at the head of each row so I know where my Keltsies are going. There we go. And open my package up, and I've got this little white bowl so I can just pour the seeds in there and go from there. And onion seeds are really, really tiny. That doesn't look like 50 seeds to me, but that's how small onion seeds are. So I actually think I'm going to put probably just 2 or 3 in a cell. The Keltsy onions are... Okay, so let's get ready to plant. Keltsy onions, people have broken records with. They tend to grow probably 3 to 5 pounds a piece. They're a pretty good size onion. When they come up, they're going to look like little blades of grass. They're I've never had them before, so this is a new experiment for me. So we'll see how they taste. They're supposed to be sweet. I don't like a hot onion, but I'll give anything a try once. I'm always up for new challenges. That's why some of the peppers we were growing, we were actually given by people we met through various organizations, through seed exchanges. So it's going to be interesting to see some of the stuff we get to grow. Okay, so I've got my Celtic onion seeds in. Now it's time to open up the Brunswicks. Now these packets here, I think I paid like $3 for this entire packet. And there's approximately 300 seeds minimum in here. So we'll use 60 of them to do these 2 rows. And again, onion seeds are really tiny. Really small stuff. But we'll go ahead and get these planted in these 2 rows here after we put our sticks in. There we go. Okay, we've got our skewers in, we've got our seeds in our bowl. I'm probably going to aim for about 5 per hole for these. 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to sprinkle them around, you don't want them touching too close together. Just a little pinch will get you about 4 or 5, maybe 6 seeds. And I've never had a purple onion as a green onion, so it's going to be something else. It's going to be an experiment for me this year. Purple onions have a little zip to them, and I like that in my onions. So, and last cell. Let's put 1 more seed in there. There we go. And there is our Brunswick onions, our purple onions planted. So we'll put the extras back in here. Actually, we'll get the Brunswick seed packet here. Put those in there. They say you can plant 9 onions per square foot. You really don't need to put them that far apart, but you could probably get a few more than that in a square foot, probably 12. But if you bunch them up like this, you can put probably, well, I can fit all 12 of those cells in a square foot, and we're going to get probably 40, 50 of each onion in there. So. And then I'll do another sowing in the fall. And now these Utah celery, they say they grow about 18 inches tall. They consider them a short celery, but that they grow 3.5 to 5 pounds a piece. And if you've ever seen celery seed, it's really, really tiny. So I'm going to do my best to get 2 per cell. And I think all I'm going to do is I'll put a few in there. Excuse me again. And to sow these 12, I'm going to actually take my little knife here. Just get a seed on the end of the tip. My fingers are too big just to grab on. We're going to dump 2 in each hole. These only need to be 1/4 inch below soil. Celery grows right on top of the soil. And its roots go down, and then they say you hill it up so you can blanch the stalk so you can get that white spot. I've seen people who haven't done that, and their celery just grows fine. I don't think I'm going to this year. I think I'll just let the stalks fall where they may as it is. I skipped a hole. I'm going to show you a little experiment I did because I didn't believe it would work involving celery. But if you want to try it, it's something you can do. That's a way to save waste. I wouldn't do an entire field like this, but it was fun to try, like I said. Okay, and you get 700 celery in a pack, in this pack. And this is the Utah 52-70. So, if you want to know which ones we're growing, that's it. And these have a long growing season too. They say 110 days to maturity, but I don't know if we're going to actually hit that farm. We're going to be planting some of these for the given garden we're doing for the food shelter, which if you watch our video, what to do with all that food, we talk about giving to the local food pantry that gives to senior citizens. So there we go. We just fill all of our holes in, and I gotta remember to put the celery picks in there so I know those are celery. Now, people will say to put cinnamon on top of your seeds over the soil here to keep fungus from growing and keeping fungus gnats from showing up. I've never done that. I don't know if it works, but a lot of people swear by it. So that's up to you. If you want, you can probably go to the dollar store. Get some cheap cinnamon, doesn't have to be the good stuff. We get ours from the local health food store, and she charges about $16 a pound for it, so I don't think I'm going to put that cinnamon on these, but I may go to the dollar store and get some just to sprinkle over, just to see if it helps. Like I said, I've never done it, so I can't account for it actually working. That is your choice if you want to do it. So when you press these down, don't press too hard. You don't want to squish your seeds. You want them to have room to grow. But you also want to be able to support them with the soil. So now, you're never going to water these from the top because you can spread fungus that way if some does show up. And when it comes time to water in a few days, I'll show you how to water these, how to know when they're ready to water, and how to let them take just what they need without waterlogging them. Because too much water is bad. Not enough water is bad. So you got to let them take what they need and then walk away with the rest. So it's not pretty, but it's effective. I mean, this is dirt. It is messy. Once it dries off, I'll sweep all that extra off. And let's get our little sticks in. One and two. And the reason I put them on the side angles so they frame in what you have, so you know. So there we go. All of our seeds for this week are planted. And let's get them up on the shelf. There we go. Those are 2 sets of seeds done. I'm going to adjust my lights. I haven't turned on yet, so you can still see me. Back one, let's do the front. And there we go. And we'll turn that set of lights on. And we're all planted for our peppers, onions, celery, and tomatoes. If you are growing a perennial herb such as lavender, tarragon, chives, mint, rosemary, oregano, these things need time to stratify, and I'm going to share a link down below to show you how to do that. I've never done it. I didn't know how to do it. So I'm going to let you go check over Luke at the MI Gardener. Check out his video so you can see how it's done and get someone to tell you the proper way to do it. What I wanted to show you that we had tried is this. This was celery that was planted from a scrap piece. You know, as you just cut across the bottom and you take and you leave a chunk about that big. We set it in water and let it get roots over about a week. And then we took and planted it in some potting soil. We put the potting soil in around, and the old celery wilted away, decomposed, fed the plant, and this is what's growing from a piece of scrap. This is about a month to 6 weeks. Not very quick, not the most efficient way, but it's fun to do with the kids and just experiment for yourself. I water it probably once a week. The water drops through pretty quick, and I just leave the extra down at the bottom and it sucks it back up. Turn the lights on for a few hours a day. Some days I may not turn them on at all, but it's growing pretty well. But again, I wouldn't do an entire field like this, but it is something fun to try. And it smells like celery. So I'm going to see how long it'll grow for. Maybe I'll just put it under one of these clamp lights over here and see how it goes. So thank you for coming with us today. We hope that you get your seeds started and you have a good time doing it. We hope that you found the information informative and a great source to get your seeds started. Comment down below, let us know what you're growing, let us know if there's any questions you have, and if you like this video, give us a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back the end of the week to show you how our tomatoes are growing and show you if anything else has sprouted, and we'll move on from there. Thank you and have a good day. Okay, so there we go. We have our tomatoes planted, our peppers planted, 110 onions and 12 celery, and we are ready to go for our 12 weeks before the last frost date. The tomatoes, being on the heat mat, should germinate in about 5 to 7 days. Once they germinate, we're going to go ahead and take the mat out from underneath it here. This room stays, like I said, between 60 and 65, which should be enough for them to grow on their own. Once the true leaves get up high enough, we'll come back and we'll show you how to top off your plants, and we'll have you follow their progress with us. The experiment I told you I wanted to tell you about is right here. This is our celery that we grew from scrap. Bring you in for a closer look. It was a cutoff about this big that we had left from making vegetable stock, and we took a knife and we skimmed off the very bottom thin layer, just like you were using a vegetable peeler on a carrot, and we soaked it in water for about 2 weeks, and we got a few roots coming out, and these started growing after a few days. And then we went and we just put it in potting soil, and we have left it under the light. Been watering it probably every 3 days or so, and we even have some new growth now coming in right here, and it all grows from the center and then lays open like this. It looks great, it smells great, it's definitely growing celery, and this was all straight from scrap. Now, like I said, this is very inefficient, but it's a great way to show your kids how not to waste, and it shows them how things grow, and the importance of either composting and recycling, because everything still has life in it. So this is our celery, and we're gonna let it go for as long as we can and see if we can get a full stalk out of it. Some of these stalks get to be about probably 18 inches or so. I think this is the same variety of the Utahs that we're growing now. So we're going to put it under one of our clamp lights, and we're going to go ahead and keep it watered and wait to see how things go between now and May. So over the next 3 months, this ought to be really interesting to see how this grows. So thank you for coming to the Hill Gardens today. If you found our video informative, give us a like. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And share this with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the little bell so you'll get a notification whenever we post. And I thank you for coming to the Hill Gardens, and have a great day.